Hey everybody, Tim here with today's review of Doctor Who, story number 10, The Dalek Invasion of Earth. This is probably considered one of the best stories, not of just the first Doctor, but at least of the classic run of Doctor Who. To be honest, it's not like my personal favorite, but I do think it's a good story. It's a very well done story. It is 6 episodes long, and all 6 episodes are intact, so as I've done other stories that are 6 episodes, usually by the time we get to the end, it's a little drawn out. But for the most part, I think this one's really good. Um, it's interesting, and this has kind of a lot of different twists and turns that are really unexpected, and that's what I think makes this one so unique. Is first of all, this is the first episode. It starts, but not with the crew. Like most episodes, kind of start with the TARDIS materializing, whereas this one just starts with some guy like throwing himself in the river. So already, it's kind of weird. When we first actually see the crew show up, a bridge collapses on top of the TARDIS, and it makes it difficult to get to it. But it's kind of funny because, I realized that it was the 60s and they only had so much of a budget. But they literally just kind of put a beam in front of it and was like, oh no, it's buried. And it's like, yeah. Nah. But like at one point, Ian does say, like, if he could just saw through this, then they would be fine. So as they continue through this episode, we realize that this is the year 2164. Now, what's interesting about that is this storyline was remade into the second Peter Cushing movie, which that movie was called 2150. So I think it's interesting that they pushed it back, or they moved it forward about 14 years just to kind of have an even number, 2150, because 2164 was too random. The first episode of this story had some interesting stuff. We see a flying saucer. Probably one of my favorite lines, like, of all time, is these guys rescue Barbara and Susan, and Barbara's like, well, I can cook, I can do stuff. And they're like, okay, you can cook, and they point to Susan, and they're like, what can you do? And she's like, I can eat. And I was like, I don't know why, it just struck that chord with me, and I was like, that'd probably be my answer, is like, I don't know, I can eat the food that she cooks, like, what do you want? And finally, this first episode ends with a Dalek coming out of the water. So I'm pretty sure, yeah. So Daleks are now the first enemy that we've encountered, or antagonists that we've encountered, that has now reoccurred. Because every story up to this point has just been one and done, and now we're starting to get that continuity. And they mention how but the Daleks were ended when we last left Skaro, and the Doctor's like, that was like a million years in the future. These are past Daleks. And so it's already, the Dalek timeline is a little screwy. So it's already kind of interesting the way that they're portraying this. Now, also, in this episode, they had to make some changes to the Daleks, because now they're not just based off of static electricity, although they do use it a lot, and they have actually taken control of human beings. They put like this weird metal contraption on their head, and they call it Robo-Men, and like the Robo Patrol and stuff like that. Now, this episode or storyline came out roughly 2 years before we finally meet Cybermen. So I feel like this was actually just kind of a first draft that they kind of had an idea, and then they completely changed it once we get to the Cybermen. But I really liked it. For the most part, the Daleks pretty much stay the same. They exterminate. At this point, still early in the series, they like shoot their gun thing, but when they do, it's just like a photo negative, and then the person dies. So we don't actually see like a laser come out at this point. And for the most part, this whole episode is just about them trying to mine through the planet to get to the core. So, for the most part, this is a really good episode. It's really well done acting. It has a lot of new characters that all do a fantastic job. Like I said, it's a little bit drawn out. For example, in I think it was the third episode, there's this long scene where they're just like 3 people running with a wheelchair. And I kind of get it, like they're in a hurry and they don't want to get killed. But after about 30 seconds, a scene like that just gets a little tiresome, and they just keep going. Now, the reason this episode is so famous is this is the episode where we lose Susan, the Doctor's granddaughter. So it's a really heartbreaking scene. Carol Ann Ford, who is still alive, and I hope to God she makes an appearance one day. said that she just didn't like the way that the writers wrote her character because she was maturing into a young woman, but they always wrote her as a child. And especially like with William Hartnell, kind of looked at her as a child, and she just didn't like it. So she decided to leave the show, and this is the first time where we have a companion departing. And it's a very, very famous scene. If anybody, like for those that only watch the new Doctor Who and are caught up, they even use the clip in one part where the Doctor's standing there and he just says goodbye to her. And he's like, "One day I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back. Until then, there must be no regrets, no tears, no anxieties. Just go forward in your beliefs and prove to me I am not mistaken in mine." And it's a heartbreaking scene, especially considering like, all these years later, like, we don't know if he ever actually did go back. Now, we do see Susan, I think, 2 more times after this episode, but still to this day, like, even right now, at the time of this recording, we have the 13th Doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker, and she's doing great. How awesome would it be to have Carol Ann Ford, like, walk on camera and be like, "Grandmother!" And like just the role reversal, it would be amazing. I would totally be down for it. And to be honest, you could even do almost like when they brought the Master back in the new Doctor Who, like have Carol Ann Ford come in and have some episodes or a scene with her, and then at the end just have Susan regenerate, and then you could have a brand new actress continuing the role, the character of Susan. So I don't know, I think it would be brilliant, but for whatever reason, 50 years later, they still haven't done it. So hopefully somebody watches this. They're like, that is pretty good. Let's do that. But overall, I think it's a really good episode. It's a really well done episode, and it's very sad to see Susan depart. Like, anytime I talk to people, I'm always like, bring back Susan. Like, there has to be a petition. So for those who have seen this one, what did you guys think about the return of the Daleks? What did you guys think about the departure of Susan? And what do you guys think about this episode in general? Like I said, this is the episode that they based the second Peter Cushing movie off of. So, I mean, it is a fan favorite. So go ahead, let me know what you guys think about this whole story. Thank you guys for watching these videos, and I will see you guys next time for The Rescue.